David asks, if I'm driving through multiple states with different gun laws, do we have to pull over in each state and change the location of the firearm or how we're carrying it in the car? And what do you say to that, Emily?
Yeah. So, I mean, the answer is maybe, right?
Right.
But generally, there is a federal protection that's going to stop you from having to do that. But I will say, we talk to license holders quite a bit. I mean, probably the easiest way to drive and carry is by having a license or permit from your home state, and then, plotting your route to be sure that you are driving through states in which that license is recognized. Even then, you've got maybe some maneuvering to do state by state, but hopefully not. However, we do have the federal safe passage provision, which will protect you in those sort of intermediate states if your license is not recognized. Do you want to talk through the specifics there?
So under 18 U.S.C. 926A, we have the Federal Safe Passage provision of the Firearms Owners Protection Act. And it gives us kind of 3 qualifications that if you meet, you may have some added protections while traveling with a firearm. Now, the first and foremost is that the firearm is unloaded, encased and locked up, or inaccessible. So that's kind of the first big one. The second one, and I'll have you talk about the third one. The second one is that you have a legal start and legal end. Where you start, you could legally possess the firearms and ammunition. Where you end, you could legally possess the firearms or ammunition. And so let me give a couple of examples of that first, because we get this question a lot. So let's say you're going from Florida to Maine. You could legally possess a handgun in both of those states. But we know we're passing through a bunch of states that just do not like the Second Amendment. They don't want you to have a firearm. And so when we talk about legal start and legal finish, we're not saying you have to start, Florida and drive all the way to Maine without stopping and, potentially hurt somebody by falling asleep at the wheel. Where you stop, let's say you stop in Pennsylvania, that would become your new starting destination. So let's say you go Florida, Pennsylvania, you stop. Pennsylvania is your new starting destination. Pennsylvania to Maine. That would be your legal start and legal finish. And the third one, this is what I want you to talk about, is traveling, because that's where there's a big gray area.
Yes, so you cannot cease traveling,
right,
in order to receive this federal protection.
Right.
And when you do cease traveling, you have created for yourself a new stop and a new start, right? You've created for yourself a new destination. So let's take your Florida example, Florida to Maine. If you are stopping that travel for anything more, then probably, and I say probably because we don't have good case law on this because it just varies wildly from state to state. If you do anything more than stop for, let's say, a trip to the restroom or maybe to get gas for your car, you have potentially, and the conservative legal advice here is, assume that you have ceased traveling. So, when you are, let's say, you're going up from Florida, you're probably okay in the vast majority of states to spend the night, to go maybe take a little side trip, to tour something. But Pennsylvania, that's a great stop. Don't stop for that overnight trip or to do a little sightseeing in New York or New Jersey.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you've ceased traveling, you've lost your federal protection while you're in that state, and you've created for yourself essentially a new starting destination or a new stopping destination. You've lost that great federal protection. And I say great federal protection. We can talk about this in a little bit more detail, but for the most part, it's a law that's on the books. But you take those states like New York and New Jersey, and let's say that you've not ceased traveling, you're just trying to book it through the state of New Jersey as quickly as humanly possible without speeding and breaking the law, so that you're going to get that safe passage provision, you're otherwise in compliance with the law. If you get pulled over by that New Jersey law enforcement officer, they very well may say, okay, you're trying to take advantage of this federal law. That's great. That's an affirmative defense. So I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to haul you back here. You're going to have to show up in court once a month for however long it takes to convince a prosecutor, judge, or jury that you in fact did comply with the federal law and you are not criminally liable. So the federal law won't stop you from being arrested in these gun-unfriendly states. And in fact, New York, New Jersey, seem to be sort of proud of the fact that they treat it as an affirmative defense, not as a bar to arrest.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned New York. We had this question from Larry: can I carry an unloaded shotgun in my car in New York anymore? And going back to Emily's point exactly, with this federal safe passage provision, that affirmative defense, just to reiterate, it's not a bar to arrest. It's not a bar to getting dragged through the system. It's something that you would have to raise at your trial and show, hey, I meet all these qualifications and therefore the law doesn't apply to me. And so I've spoken to police officers who could lawfully carry in other states. There's a lot of different things. We'll talk about that towards the end of the stream, but getting arrested for carrying in the state of New York. So it can be very, very legally dicey.